Chapter 22, Corpse Corner. Sonny strolled back to his lonely corner of the hall, smug satisfaction still fresh on his face. He could feel the stares. Amused, dismissive, maybe even a little concerned, but no one dared come near. That suited him just fine. The less company, the better. Still, wasn't the reaction a little over the top? He wasn't contagious. Well, except for the spell. But that didn't exactly count as an actual illness. At last, he reached the far edge of the room where few dared to linger. Only one other person sat there, a girl. Sonny glanced at her. She was small, composed, and breathtakingly beautiful. Pale blonde hair, flawless features, and delicate clothes that, while not luxurious, had a quiet elegance. She looked like she'd stepped out of a painting, graceful and unreal, but something felt off. Sonny frowned, squinting slightly. There was something in her blank stare that chilled him, something that brought to mind the cold indifference of the Mountain King. And then it clicked, she was blind. He blinked, startled. It took a few seconds to gather himself. That's her flaw. She must have lost her sight during the appraisal. She couldn't have survived the first nightmare blind, which meant the spell had taken her vision in exchange for power. Suddenly, Sonny felt a tight knot in his chest. His own flaw seemed downright manageable in comparison. No matter what ability she gained, she's already as good as dead. The thought unsettled him. Sitting down at the far edge of the bench, he couldn't help but feel like he was sitting beside a ghost. A blind sleeper in the dream realm wouldn't survive long, not without at least reaching the awakened stage. The others seemed to sense it too. This corner wasn't just empty, it was avoided. Looking back at the crowd, Sonny began noticing the invisible lines that divided them. The sleepers had instinctively grouped themselves, separated by background and strength. Near the stage stood a few small clusters. These were the legacies, descendants of powerful families, trained from birth for this. They looked composed, already standing apart from the rest. Castor, in particular, drew attention. Beside them were the wealthy, sons and daughters of influential figures, dressed in expensive clothes and brimming with youthful confidence. They'd likely trained under professionals, even awakened instructors. Further back were the masses, the average kids, middle class, maybe some private lessons, but mostly dependent on the public school system and grit. Anxious and hopeful, they made up the largest group. And then there were the outcasts, Sonny and the blind girl, people the others already considered dead. Lovely company I'm keeping these days. Everyone had fallen into place except for one. The silver-haired girl stood alone, eyes closed, completely detached from the tension. She leaned against a wall with music playing through her headphones, unconcerned. But Sonny barely had time to admire her cool composure. A towering figure entered the hall. The man was enormous, broad shoulders, thick arms, and a beard worthy of mythology. He walked like he weighed twice as much as anyone else in the room and carried authority in every step. Did a bear father that guy? Wait, bears went extinct ages ago. Nightmare creature. Then, Sonny tensed as the man's gaze swept the hall. When those heavy eyes passed over the deserted corner, Sonny's skin prickled. Please tell me he's not a mind reader. I really like having all my limbs attached. Thankfully, the man said nothing and moved on. Then, in a deep, resonating voice, he addressed them. I am Awakened Rock. Welcome to the Academy. Silence fell across the room. In less than a month, you will be summoned to the Dream Realm. Some of you think you're ready. You're not. The spell is brutal and cunning. I've watched plenty of sleepers like you die. I've seen seasoned masters fall. Even saints aren't safe. Wow, way to inspire confidence, Sonny thought. For the next 4 weeks, we'll push you harder than you've ever been pushed. You'll train under the best this world has to offer. But remember, none of that matters if you fail. Only one person is responsible for whether you survive. Yourself. Sonny watched as fear slowly crept across the faces of the crowd. Even the overconfident ones were shifting now. You're not children anymore. You've seen the nightmare. You know what's out there. Your families, your mentors, your friends. None of them can help you now. Haven't had any of those in a while anyway, Sunny thought with a smirk. Rock paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Then finally he moved on. Now, let's talk about the difference between nightmares and the dream realm.